What's up, guys? Welcome to Mike It Yourself, and today's video is going to be something that there's actually a lot of videos out there on as far as process goes, but this is going to be a little bit different, and I just wanted to focus in on two different things I've never used before. Let's take a look at them. Damn it! Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. We're going to be doing oil, transmission, and primary fluid change on the 2017 Road Glide. And what we're using that I haven't used before are these little doodads that I picked up from Amazon. So these are supposed to make the process easier. So this one is to help you fill up the primary. This one is to help you drain the oil filter. So it's got a little like trough and a nipple here that I think this clear tubing is supposed to go to. They give you a bunch of O-rings, probably for your drain plugs, and then you've got your standard funnel, which I understand is to be used for filling up your transmission and the motor oil, right? So that's new. Never tried that stuff before. We'll see if it makes life any easier. I've done mine in the past using a funnel for all of the locations, and I haven't had a problem. So I just want to see if this one, it was cheap. It was like under 20 bucks, and I was wondering, like, hey, does it make life easier? Especially when it comes to the oil filter, because you know that could be messy. If you don't catch that oil, it spills all over your frame, and it just creates a mess. The other thing we're trying out is I've always used Mobil 1 V-Twin, and my intent when I went to the store to buy my oil was to get the same stuff. I have no backing on it. I have nothing. I don't, I'm not a person who's researched oils, so I couldn't tell you if that oil is superior to any other brand, and I'm not a brand loyal person when it comes to that stuff. So unfortunately, when I went to Walmart to buy my oil, they were sold out of it. So right next to it was this Supertech stuff at a pretty good discount as far as the price goes. So I'm looking at the bottle, and my thought here is, look, it's fully synthetic, just like the Mobil 1, same viscosity, and it meets the same requirements that are laid out as far as what the oil should be. So I'm gonna give this a chance. I'm gonna try this Supertech stuff out and see if it's any good. So that it's gonna take time on that. There's nothing really to show other than letting you know I'm trying the cheap stuff because I want to see how it performs compared to what I've used in the past. For the transmission, we're gonna use gear oil, and I'm using 75-140. And I know, for some folks, there's like this group of people that want to use transmission or gear oil, and then there's people that just use motor oil. You can use either. They'll both work. The upside to using the gear oil, from what I understand, is it makes things quieter, and it's technically made for gears, like your transmission is full of them, right? The downside to it is because it is thicker fluids hold heat longer. So there is a possibility that I can increase the heat in my transmission. And I'll tell you right now, it's been hot as heck here in California. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. It's a very simple process. We've got, and I'm not going to go step by step on how to do this, because there's a ton of videos out there that are far better than what I would put together. But you get your two fill ports here. So here's your transmission. This is gonna be your engine oil. And then underneath this is where you're gonna find your drain plugs. So you, of course, pull out the drain plugs. Make sure you put a catch, something like this underneath it. If you got one of those fancy flat ones, then good on you. But you just wanna put that there, drain your fluids. Make sure you open these up so that way venting can occur and it lets the fluids drain quicker. After we're done with that, we'll close them off, and I am going to stand my bike up right for the engine and training fluid change. So I'll get those drained out, Then we'll do the, well, you can't really see it too well with this, but the oil filter. Let's see if we can get in there. Can we get in there? Nah, I'm not gonna kill myself trying to get in there. But, so, oil filter's there. We'll swap that out. Now, unfortunately, again, so I was just gonna get the regular black or Fram that they have, and they only had the shiny stuff. So my filter is now gonna be bling bling. That's all right. It'll go with the rest of the chrome on the bike, right? So once we get those knocked out, then we'll do the primary. And as I go through the process, again, it's really going to be about these orange doodads to see how well they work, how effective they are at catching the oil when I do the oil filter. And then, you know, really the only other one I'm curious about is this primary deal. I've used like a funnel like that in the past to fill my primary. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe it'll make it easier. We'll find out. Okay, so I've got the drain plugs out. Here's my, this is a transmission plug. So when you pull these out, you know, again, if you do research or you watch videos on guys showing you how to do this, you want to look at your magnetic end there just to make sure you don't have any large chunks of metal. It is normal. You will get some shavings sometimes. So if you see a little bit of shavings on there, don't freak out. But you shouldn't see, like, if you see chunks of metal, that's a problem. Taking this off though, I did notice something that I did not expect, and there is like Teflon tape on these plugs. So I was surprised. I went in to take a look online, and apparently this is kind of normal for the M8s, at least, where when they get installed, they install them with Teflon tape. So I don't know if that's also a practice at your local Harleys, but it sounds like it's a normal practice for the factory. But I don't know. So I saw a bunch of mixed reviews from people as to whether or not they put it back on. You know, some folks are saying, hey, it's got an O-ring for a reason. That creates the seal. The O-ring on this thing is demolished. That thing is smashed to hell, and this was super tight on the bike. So this is the engine oil plug. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Hopefully I don't get any leaks. But I'm gonna clean that up, swap out the seals, and put the plugs back in. You can see we're kind of drained pretty well. And depending on your bike, your drain plugs are going to be different spots. So this is the 2017 M8 107 engine. So my plugs are one way. If you've got an Evo or something else, then your plugs are going to be a different way. So look it up for the manual on your bike. That way, you know what you're doing. So I'm going to get these cleaned up, new O-rings, reinsert them, and then we'll stand the bike up. Actually, we don't even have to do that. No, actually, we'll stand it up. I want to get that oil filter out and swapped out before we fill up the transmission and the engine oil. So again, look at your specs for your bike. They'll determine how much fluid you need. For this particular bike, it's about 1 quart for the transmission, and you get 4 quarts for the engine oil, and then about 1 quart for the primary. At the end of the day, what you'll want to do is put those things in and then measure it all out. All right, guys, so I've got the little orange doohickey in there. I've got the hose attached to it, and that's getting ready to feed right into my catch can or catch pan there. These things are a beast to get out, especially if you don't have the right wrench. So this one doesn't even have the socket on the end, and I don't have the cap style oil filter wrench, so I had to improvise with a toe strap, one of these soft straps, and I just wrapped that around it, and then took a pair of pliers and kind of tangled it in, and kept rotating it until I got tight enough where it finally broke this thing loose. So it's a little, I don't know if you want to call it a hack or whatever, but I know people have done it many different ways back in the day. I know I've at least once or twice taken a screwdriver and just stabbed it right through a filter and used that as a turning tool. But yeah, what a pain. So let's see how well this goes. Go ahead and undo this. I'm not seeing any oil come down just yet. Oh, well, that just fell in there. See how that goes. But let's see how well it did. Actually, it did really good. I'm very impressed with how little oil there is. This is why you always wipe that surface. That stupid O-ring from the oil filter came off, stayed on there, so you want to make sure you wipe down that mating surface. I'm gonna put a rag there just in case there's any residual coming off of there. But so this thing kind of did its job. I'm surprised. So I'm not really impressed. I'm surprised. So that's cool. So all I'm gonna do now is just put the new filter on there. You know, you put a little bit of fresh oil on the ring, on the seal, tighten it on there. Don't crank it down, or else you'll be like doing what I'm doing. It should be hand tight, and then a little bit beyond that, which is I think a lot of mistakes people make, or they crank it down thinking of fear of a oil leak or whatever, and really it doesn't need to be that tight, because all you're going to do is make it harder for yourself to get off in the future. So let me get that new one on, and we'll take a look at what it looks like, because it is the bling bling model. So there you go. Look at that bling. Oh my god. People are gonna annoy. They're gonna ignore all the cool stuff, the Willie G and everything else that I got chromed out on here, and they're gonna focus right on that Fram oil filter. That thing is spicy. All right, guys. So enough of the nonsense. So now what we're gonna do is we'll go ahead and fill up the oil, engine oil, and the tranny oil. That's a no-brainer, and we're just using the standard funnel for that. And then we'll get over to this side, and that's where we're going to use that other little adapter thing. We'll see how easy it is. This one's simple to drain. On the bottom here there is another little drain plug. You undo that, let it pour out, and then you add in with that little tool. So we'll have to take off the Willie G cover here, the Derby cover, and we'll check our gasket. I'm hoping it doesn't need to be replaced because I didn't buy one. It is cheap insurance, but I think it'll be fine. We'll find out. Worst case scenario, I'll buy one tomorrow. Not a big deal. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm getting ready to do the transmission fluid, and here's what, or the gear oil, or whatever you want to call it. But so as I'm trying to use this filter, what is wrong with me? Funnel, my air deflector gets in the way. So you're still able to use it. You'll just have to support it with one hand as you pour your fluid with the other hand. But that's something to just note, that your air deflector, if you've got one, it's going to get away with a funnel like that. If you have a smaller funnel, it'll probably be fine, or you could even hack this one down maybe a little bit to get beyond that. But yeah, just something to note. Wanted to point that out. All right, so I've got the primary drained. Again, it's actually a 5/8, just like the other plugs, and replace the O-ring on that one. And now we're gonna put this little orange tool in here. So it kind of just sits in there just like that. And so it's just supposed to make this pouring process easier. So let's see how well it works. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be too difficult, right? Like, so the nice thing is you don't have to hold it, where with the funnel you usually have to hold it with your other hand. So this one, you know, in this particular case, I'm actually holding the camera with one hand and pouring the fluid with the other. And it's not making a mess, so that's a good sign, right? So we should be good there. Of course, like I said, you need to check all your fluids after you do your fills to ensure you're either not too low, and you definitely don't want to be high, on your fluids, because if you overflow stuff, then you got to get that stuff out of there. And that's a whole nother process. So I don't know. Yeah, you know what? They did exactly what I expected them to do. I got to say that the oil filter one was the surprising one to me. I did find that some oil did get behind it after all. It's so compact in there, I didn't catch it. So until I saw it on the floor. But it was a very small amount, and I was able to just kind of wipe things down. So I will probably have to wash, or I should, throw some like degreaser or whatever underneath there and kind of rinse that off, just to ensure that I don't end up with a bunch of smoke and the bike stinking like hell because it's got oil on the casing or something like that. But yeah, at this point, I just need to button this up and we'll start it up, and that's it. Okay guys, well that's going to be a wrap for today's video. Like I said, oil changes, you can find videos on that stuff all over YouTube. So I would look specific to your bike. If you happen to have a Road Glide, I kind of gave you some information. Key things to think about is like the torque of those drain plugs is, I think it's like 14 to 21 foot-pounds. So I did mine about 17. I usually try to find the middle spot for those. And then yeah, checking your gasket on your derby cover. Mine was good, so I didn't have to worry about replacing it. It wasn't pinched or damaged or anything like that, and it still had a little level of puffiness to it, so it wasn't like flat or anything. But I could be totally wrong. It could start leaking tomorrow. And again, it's just kind of the risk you're willing to take. They're relatively cheap. I think they're about 15 bucks if you get them from the dealership, probably even less if you get them online. And as far as those orange tools go, I don't think they're must-haves. They're not like game-changing tools, but they were pretty convenient. So I appreciate the oil filter one. I think that I need to get an oil filter wrench, and that would have worked out a little bit better. I also think it might be wiser to slide, when you slide that thing in there, that reservoir or catch or whatever, maybe put a rag underneath it, so that way as you do pull the filter away, if that slides out as well, at least the rag will be there to catch any of the residual that might come out. Because I think that's what happened to me, was as I was pulling the filter out, so did that thing come out, and I thought it caught it all, but there was still some kind of coming out from where the oil filter attaches. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't very bad at all. I've had much worse, so I'm not even tripping on it. And then as far as that the primary one, I think, is probably the better of the three of them, just because, so the funnel didn't really fit with the air deflector. The that one for the oil filter catch, that one's a little bit more complicated to use just because of the small tight area. But the primary one, I think that was pretty good because it holds itself and you can do the fill one-handed. So if I were to recommend any of those tools, I'd say that would be the one you'd want to buy. If you can get it separately, I think that would be your easiest win. And then as far as this, I don't even remember what brand this oil was, but the Walmart branded oil, or the oil that comes from Walmart. Yeah, time will tell here. So I'll run it. We'll see. I'll be kind of looking or trying to feel for some engine heat. Also listening really closely, see how the motor performs, how shifting feels. Especially since I went with the gear oil instead of just using the engine oil in the transmission. So more to come on this one. This will definitely be a good chunk of a review Sunday in the near future. So until that video does post, I hope to see you in the win.